Session 5.
In Homer's The Odyssey, one of the oldest surviving epic poems in the world, there is a character named Mentor. A wise and practical man, Mentor kept everything running smoothly at home, while Odysseus, the hero of the tale, went off for 10 years to have adventures. Mentor played his role so well and gave such wise and true advice that his name has become part of the English language as a representation of what he stood for. The American Heritage Dictionary defines a mentor as a wise and trusted counselor or teacher. This session is about mentors. Few achievers can ever reach their goals without them. Mentors provide you with the kind of inspiration, motivation, and example that can make the difference between achievement and failure. Mentors help you to develop the belief that anything is possible. And mentors allow you to learn through modeling, that is, emulating the person you'd like to be. In ancient civilizations, mentors were revered. In the 18th century B.C., there lived a wise Babylonian king named Hammurabi. One of his greatest achievements was developing and drafting mankind's first set of civilized laws, known today as the Code of Hammurabi. This king was so wise that one of his laws required all men of learning and craftsmanship to pass on their knowledge and skills to the young through examples their students could follow. Hammurabi realized that without modeling, no civilization would last very long. There have been many changes in the past 3,800 years, but one thing has remained the same. Without modeling, learning and achievement are not possible. It is a rare person who can forge a new path in society without consciously or unconsciously imitating someone that came before him. It is a rare artist who develops a new style without first having worked in the style of a master he or she has always admired. But actual skills aren't the only thing you learn through modeling. Values, attitudes, and behaviors are also passed on from mentors to students. And whether you realize it or not, you've been a student of behavior all your life. As an infant, your eager mind quickly grasped everything that was going on around you. You watched and later imitated what your parents, siblings, friends, and teachers were doing. If you had good models of integrity and achievement, most likely you grew up to be an achiever yourself. But if your models reflected apathy or failure, you probably grew up to imitate many of the self-defeating and negative behaviors you witnessed in your early years. Most of us had models who could best be called middle of the road. Your parents may have had specific skills and abilities they were proud of, but fell short of being a good example to you in other ways. An older brother or sister may have possessed exceptional talent in an area where you couldn't possibly compete. As a result, you've probably been instilled with a mixture of negative and positive attitudes about yourself and your abilities to succeed. It's time for you to develop the kind of positive outlook that is critical to developing self-discipline. It's time for you to throw off the cloak of self-doubt and realize that when you acquire self-discipline, you have what it takes to achieve your goal. It's time for you to use that self-discipline to develop the knowledge and skills you need to achieve. And in order to do all those things, it's time for you to find mentors who have already accomplished what you want to achieve. You're no longer a helpless infant who can't pick and choose good models to learn from. As an adult, you have the intelligence and power to go out and find the kind of mentors who will inspire and teach you with examples of their own persistence and positive attitudes and behaviors. By the time we finish this session, you'll know how to find your own personal mentors and use them to their fullest ability. And you'll be able to overcome the negative attitudes and lack of self-discipline that have been holding you back up until now. You'll learn how to identify your own personal role models using historical figures and the people surrounding you today. You'll find out how to actually learn new attitudes and behaviors from them. You'll learn how to use them to create a blueprint for your own actions, starting right now. And more importantly, you'll learn how to draw inspiration from them, the kind of inspiration that empowers your purpose, what you want to achieve, with a sense of possibility. If others have achieved it, then it's possible for me too. How do you go about finding mentors? At first glance, it may seem that there's nobody even remotely accessible to you, who has the same kind of hopes and dreams as you do. But high achievers always find a way, and so can you. In our research, we discovered that achievers draw their inspiration from role models in two ways: indirectly, from reading and watching films, and directly, through day-to-day observation and contact. Let's first discuss how self-disciplined achievers indirectly find their mentors. Indirectly, they learn through media portrayals, mostly through the reading of biography and autobiography, reading profiles of achievers in magazines and other periodicals, and watching inspirational films and television programs. You may not be able to meet and talk to George Washington, Charles Lindbergh, Margaret Mead, or Agatha Christie, but each one of them has left behind a legacy of accomplishments that have been covered extensively in print and film. Stop now and think of all the people you've read about, heard about, or seen portrayed in films. Whom did you admire most? Whose story elicited a throb of recognition from you, a feeling that if you could be in anyone's shoes, that was the person you'd like to be? It could even be a fictional character, a great detective or explorer created by an imaginative writer. But there had to be, and still has to be, someone you've always greatly admired and wished you could be like. After he made the film Rocky, Sylvester Stallone talked in an interview about the power of mentors and how his movie worked to inspire millions of people around the world. "I think there's a definite formula in reaching audiences," he said. "Provide them with heroes and heroines who have to pull themselves up from the depths of despair. And as they struggle and claw and finally attain their goal, the audience says, 'That's the kind of person I want to be.'" Stallone's character Rocky is the embodiment of a man obsessed with and driven by a vision rich in emotion and purpose, a self-directed achiever who overcame the odds through hard work, effort, persistence, and perseverance. Browse through the New York Times nonfiction bestsellers list this Sunday in your local paper. You'll find that half the books listed are biographies or autobiographies, testaments to people of enormous self-discipline and high achievement. Examples of the power of self-discipline are all around you. You only have to visit your library, your local newsstand, the closest movie theaters, or your local video store for inspiration. Your first step in finding a self-disciplined mentor is to search out books, magazine articles, and movies in which the main characters, fictional or real, have achieved something similar to what you want to achieve. And after studying these people, you can begin to answer the questions. What is it I must do to achieve my goal? What skills do I need to learn? How must I behave? What actions do I need to take? Your mentors will provide you with the answers. The self-disciplined have three direct methods of finding role models to learn from and emulate. The first is through personal acquaintances. They may have a friend whose business or personal successes have inspired them to take similar routes to the top. Or perhaps there's a family member who has achieved widespread recognition for outstanding contributions to the community. Because these mentors are close at hand, they can be watched from a front row seat. You can observe their attitudes, behaviors, and thinking patterns. You can notice how they solve problems. You can pay attention to how they behave when confronted with setbacks or victories. You can watch these mentors grapple with the issues of everyday life and the larger issue of achievement in a chosen area. But sometimes there just aren't any people who are that close to you who fit the bill of the self-disciplined achiever. You must find other methods of seeking out real-life mentors. The second way self-disciplined people directly find mentors is through what is commonly known as networking. Networking consists of building relationships with the people who can introduce and expose you to positive role models. Networking is not to be confused with social climbing. The primary motivation of the networker is to learn as much as he can from as many successful people as he possibly can. The main benefit from networking is the quality of the contacts you can establish. Contacts that will create greater opportunities and put you in the mainstream of successful, self-disciplined role models. The third source of finding models directly is apprenticeship, learning directly from a master mentor. The concept of apprenticeship may seem old-fashioned in a world of computer-assisted learning and mass public education, But most of the high achievers we studied apprenticed themselves in some fashion to a mentor who could pass on his or her skills through intentional, personalized learning. Apprenticeship is extraordinarily common in the arts, trade crafts, business, medicine, law, politics, teaching, and sports. Leaf through any encyclopedia and notice how many of the achievers profiled learned their skills under the tutelage of a master mentor. Some people are obvious masters of their craft and easy to pick as mentors, but sometimes it isn't so obvious, especially when it comes to business or professional achievers. How can you choose among several possible candidates? How can you pick the person who is most likely to provide you with the inspiration and example you need? In Session 2, you used an assessment form to compare your own behaviors, habits, and thought patterns against the 10 positive characteristics of the self-disciplined achiever. On page 25 of your study guide, you'll find a similar form that you can use to identify the strengths and weaknesses of prospective mentors, with instructions on how to use it. Put this form to work for you as you seek out that special person who can help you achieve your most cherished dreams and goals. When choosing a mentor of any kind, pay particular attention to how he or she developed the knowledge, skills, and abilities it took to reach his or her goal. Was there special schooling involved, particular reading materials, an apprenticeship with a mentor of his or her own, carefully sought-out teachers? How many hours did your mentor work every day toward achieving his or her goal? Also, pay close attention to your mentor's way of thinking. Be sure to choose someone who handles stress and pressure well, someone who responds to difficult problems by coming up with creative solutions, someone who loves what they do but still finds time for important personal relationships. The highest achievers work hard but are not workaholics. They still find time to enjoy their friends and families. Look for a mentor who has learned not to waste time and who has mastered the art of juggling a heavy schedule while staying calm and in full control. This will be an important trait for you to imitate, and find someone who neither capitulates to everyone around him nor is so arrogant he won't listen to the opinions of others. You'll want to learn how to listen well and then make your own decisions. In looking for all these traits, remember that your mentor is still going to be human and have faults. This is one of the most important things you can learn about your role model. In spite of great success, wealth, and the admiration of friends, family, and the community, he or she makes mistakes just like you. Rather than being disappointed in your mentor, you should rejoice over his or her human failings, because those failings mean that anyone can succeed just as they did. If it was possible for an imperfect person with one all-important goal in life to make that goal come true, you can do it as well. At Cybervision Systems, we've developed a number of sports training videocassettes that use a new and revolutionary learning technique. These videocassettes feature some of the world's greatest athletes, highly self-disciplined achievers who have won world championships and Olympic gold medals. And in the casual conversations we've had while working with these athletic stars, each one has revealed that he or she had a mentor whose skills, attitudes, and behavior served as an example of how to achieve. One of the things that struck us during these conversations was the fact that most top athletes were just as intimidated as you and I might be the first time they met their role model heroes, for lack of a better word. The idea that a major league ball player of undisputed talent might be quivering like a school kid in the face of their lifelong hero made us feel pretty normal, actually. I think we all feel a sort of psychological barrier when it comes to measuring ourselves against our role models. But as the athletes we talked to discovered, that barrier can be overcome quickly and easily. Each of them described the eventual realization that came from playing on a team with a personal hero or from riding the same pro circuit. The realization? As Olympic gold medal skier Jean-Claude Killy put it, everybody puts his pants on, one leg at a time. What each of them realized was that they too could easily perform like the role model they idolized. The idols, viewed close up, turned out to be as ordinary as the worshippers. They realized how great an opportunity they had to learn from their hero. Discovering that their idols were human and fallible, they began to believe deep within their hearts that they could equal or even surpass their idols' accomplishments. Though the role models you choose have developed tremendous strengths that have made them successful, they also have many weaknesses. Renowned fiction writer Ray Bradbury, for example, who was first published when he was in his teens, will never win the Monaco Grand Prix, or even a race to the local supermarket. Why? Because he never learned to drive a car, a skill most of us acquired long ago without thinking about it twice. A friend of ours who was independently wealthy, a local politician, a publisher of fine art books, and a world traveler, wears finely crafted boots with all his clothes, even his business suits. Is it part of his personal style? Yes, but his close friends know his secret. He never mastered the bow knot. This much admired man literally cannot tie his shoes. Recognizing how human and fallible your mentor really is, demystifying your role model, plays an important role in boosting your confidence in your own ability to succeed. If a man who cannot tie his shoes can become a politician, a publisher, and a self-made millionaire, what couldn't you accomplish with the same ambition and drive that got him where he is? This is a man who never let minor shortcomings hold him back. He and 1,000 other mentors will prove to you that you don't have to be perfect to succeed. In fact, you may be amazed to find out that there are a lot of similarities between you and your mentor. People with similar goals often think alike. The only substantial difference, then, between you and your mentor is the kind of self-disciplined effort he or she has applied to achieving a goal. If you apply the same kind of effort, you can be just as successful in achieving your goal. As a matter of fact, you can try on success for size by emulating your mentor's achievements while you're working toward a similar goal. Remember childhood dress-up games, playing pirate with a tinfoil sword and your mother's scarf wrapped around your forehead. Role-playing doesn't work only for children. It can give anyone who's striving to reach a particular goal a template to follow for achieving that goal. Hunter Thompson, who broke new ground in journalism in the 1970s with his gonzo style, picked up much of his technique by imitating one of the greatest writers in the English language, Charles Dickens. Thompson literally sat down and physically copied Dickens by hand, letting his mind and his muscles get used to Dickens' rhythm and style. Hour after hour, he copied Dickens' prose, word for word. And Thompson went on to become a successful and popular contemporary writer. The great 19th century psychologist and philosopher William James contended that if you want to acquire a positive habit or behavior, simply act as if you already have it, and you will. James was aware that the human nervous system is incapable of distinguishing between a physically real experience and a vividly imagined one, which means that once you select your mentor, all you need to do is act just like that person in order to be just like him or her. Remember General Patton? He acted just like Alexander the Great, and he won battle after battle against the Axis. What about Babe Ruth? He imitated shoeless Joe Jackson and went on to achieve much greater fame than his role model. Or perhaps you've heard of a fictional character named Bunker Bean. Bunker Bean was a timid, weak boy, raised by his parents to think he would always be a failure, and he was. He failed in school, he failed with his friends, he failed in everything he attempted, until one day Bunker Bean ran into a fortune teller who told him he was the reincarnation of Napoleon and was destined to achieve great things. Bunker Bean was shocked out of his usual apathy by this revelation. Going to the library, he took out every book he could find on the legendary Napoleon Bonaparte. He bought posters of Napoleon and hung them up all over his room. And as he studied about the emperor, whom he really believed was his former self, he began to imitate Napoleon's habits, attitudes, and behaviors. Years later, Bunker Bean was a rich and powerful man. He had everything anyone could have asked for. Running into the fortune teller one day, he thanked her for changing his life by telling him about his former self. And to his astonishment, she laughed and told him she had lied to him years before, just to get his money. He wasn't the reincarnation of Napoleon after all. Bunker Bean was crushed. But since he had spent the many years acting like his role model, he found he couldn't shake the habits of success he had acquired. It was then that Bunker Bean realized that everyone is born with the potential to be a great achiever, if they can only believe they are. You don't need a fortune teller to set you on the road to greatness. You do need to find a mentor, study that mentor, realize his or her strengths and weaknesses, and start imitating the behavior that made your mentor the success he or she is today. If you were an actor preparing for a starring role, you'd spend months studying the script, learning your lines and rehearsing your part over and over again until you knew it inside out. Only then would you have the knowledge, skills, and confidence to make a glorious debut. If, as Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, then finding a mentor is your way of choosing your own starring role. For a while, as you closely observe your mentor and learn the script, you'll be just an understudy. But then, one day, the stage will be yours. Acting as if has remarkable suggestive power. In a book called The Wind Walker, which was made into a powerful film, an aged blind Indian spends his days teaching the ways of warriors. Sitting late at night, reflecting on the day's lesson and the children's reactions to it, he recites a poem to the heavens, part of which goes, "And did you not see the glow of their faces when he called them men, when he called them warriors? And is it not so that we become most quickly the persons we think we are?" And later, this passage appears. He was making the children feel important, that one day they could be important. That was the way of a teacher, of a true man. Once you select your role models and learn about them and from them, you, like the young Indian children, should feel important, so that one day you will be important. This power of importance you draw from role models is really the power of possibility. Once you learn about your role models, their strengths and weaknesses, they become real and human to you. You stop worshiping them and begin to believe that you can become like them, or even surpass them. Once you make this realization, then your purpose becomes more real, more possible, and the fires of desire, fanned by the sense of possibility, begin to burn deep within your heart. And then, and only then, can you successfully begin the process of working persistently and progressively toward your vision and purpose.